Hello and welcome back to my video. Today we're going to be doing every single book I've read in 2024. If you can hear outside noises, it's because it's the middle of the day and everybody in this house has the weekend off, or has the week off. So everybody in this house is in this house. Everybody who can be in this house is in this house right now. So everybody's doing their own activities, and I obviously can't stop them all from doing their own activities long enough to do a YouTube video. So we're going to survive with outside noises. I did, however, stop someone from cutting the grass while I recorded this video. So it's the little moments in life. But anyways, my goal was 25 books. I'm on my 25th book today. Today is New Year's Eve. I have about 20% left of my book and I will finish it. I will be at New Year's Eve dinner finishing my book because I tried not to rush books for this goal, but I'm like, I'm so close to the goal, I'm gonna finish this damn goal. But yeah, so here are the 25 books I read in 2024. It's been so long since I've talked about books on YouTube, so this is very difficult. But the first book I read in 2024 was Love Theoretically by Elsie Silver, wrong author, by Ali Hazelwood, and it's about Elsie and Jack. Basically, Elsie doesn't want to date people, and she's on this app where like you can purchase her to go on like dates with like fake dates, so people like buy her as a date. And so she gets hired with someone. She goes to this family dinner, meets Jack, and Jack's the older brother. Older brother doesn't like her, or so she thinks. But anyways, so she goes for this job. Turns out the guy interviewing her is him, but when he met her, she was like, I'm a librarian, because she lied about the job on this date with his brother. But yeah, so I gave this book 5 stars. You guys will tell I just really fall in love with books. Towards the end of the year I got into a slump, but I give 5 stars out pretty easily, just as long as they make me happy, and this book made me extremely happy. Ali Hazelwood can really do no wrong. I was on an Ali Hazelwood kick, so yeah, 5 stars. The next book I read is Love on the Brain, and Love on the Brain is about Levi B, and B gets a new job at NASA, and when she shows up to this new job, none of her equipment is there, none of it. So she's like, well, what the fuck is going on? Where's all my equipment? He's the one in charge of the whole thing. They have history, but she thinks he hates her for some reason, and he really doesn't correct her on it. So this is kind of like their relationship, and I will say all of Ali Hazelwood's book kind of follow the same thing. It's like the man falls first, and then she's just like clueless. She's like this clueless smart girl, and the guy's just like brooding and like, oh, I love her but I can't say, like that type of shit. But very good. As you can see, I eat it up every single time. But yeah, that was, I gave Love on the Brain 4 stars. As you can see, this one was my favorite. The next book I read in 2024 was Plot Twist. And Plot Twist is about Sophie and Dash. And Sophie is a romance reader, but a video goes viral of her as a romance reader saying that she's never been in love and that she doesn't know why and that there's something wrong with her, blah, blah, blah. Dash is her best friend's brother. So it's best friend's brother trope. And basically they like live together, but like he rents the back house out to her. And so they kind of form like a relationship, and then she goes to talk, like she creates like this new TikTok like show on TikTok where she's going back to all of her exes to find out why she's never been in love, like where she went wrong. Which I'm like, okay, like it took some balls. It took some real balls to do this. But she goes back to all of her exes and she asks, and then yeah. I gave this book 4 stars, but looking back at it, I don't remember it too much, and it wasn't all that life-changing, so I'm gonna change it to 3 stars. So the next book I read was Twisted Lies, and Twisted Lies is the 4th book in the Twisted series, and I have to say it was my least favorite, but we'll get into that. But basically it's about Christian and Stella, and Christian is in charge of a security company. It's like CEO of a security company, and Stella's an influencer. So Stella's an influencer and she has a stalker. So she moves into Christian's building, and Christian strikes up a deal with her in the last book about, if you help me water my plants, I'll give you like cheap rent. So they agree, but then her roommate moves out, so then she needs cheaper rent. So then they continue the same idea, but when he finds out that she has a stalker, he's like, you're not staying in your apartment. So they start living together and kind of like forced proximity type of thing. And yeah, one thing I didn't like about this book, and I don't know if it's a spoiler or not a spoiler, but I just didn't like how at the end, like when he confesses like everything he's done like to protect her, how he fucked up, she kind of just is like, okay, like this man hurt people, like this man. And it wasn't like in a dark, like brooding romance way. Like he didn't have to hurt these people. He was just psychotic and he never gives an excuse for it. And it just icked me out so bad. So yeah, 3 stars. Guys, the next book I read was again by Ali Hazelwood. As you guys can see, she's my favorite. But this is probably the best book she's ever written in her entire life. Like she needs to continue with her fantasy because this was vampires and werewolves. It's like Bella being a vampire and choosing Jacob. Because guys, Team Jacob. In my defense, I thought he was Mexican, so I felt like a kinship towards him. Turns out he's just white. He's a white man. But I was Team Jacob, and he had a 6-pack. Like, you're telling me I have to go for the skinny white dude instead of the guy with the 6-pack? Let's be so for real right now. Just kidding. Oh my god, that sounded so bad. But anyways, I was Team Jacob. Now rewatching them, he's kind of a picky boy, but we'll get over that. Anyways, this book is about misery. This book is about misery and love. Misery is a vampire, and she's like the daughter of the king of the vampires, but she's been living with the humans. So she's kind of like, I don't know what the word for it. She's collateral. So she's living with the humans. So as long as they don't kill her, they don't kill their human. She's the vampire for the humans, and then the vampires have a human. So they've both been living, like they've been switched. So they've both been collateral for both sides. So if one of them dies, like it starts war with the humans and the vampires. But now there's a war coming with the werewolves, so they need to find a way to solve this. So what does Misery's horrible, by the way, we hate him, horrible father do? Sell her. He's like, not sell her, not in like a One Direction type of way, but he's like, you know what, you're getting married to the werewolf king. Fuck those humans, get married to the werewolf king. And that she does. And it starts a romance. I always thought my love language was quality time, but no, it's acts of service. And it's not even in like, just the way he just listens to everything she needs and gives it to her without her having to ask. Oh, the relationship is beautiful. And if you don't think that you'll like a vampire and werewolf romance, just go in it for the acts of service. And the acts of service books that we read this year, phenomenal. I will say Steph Bower, my favorite YouTuber, most of her books that she recommends are also acts of service, and I love them. So that's how I kind of figured out. I was like, yeah, this is my cup of tea. But yeah, I gave Bride by Ali Hazelwood, no surprise, 5 stars. I would give it 6 stars if I could. That might be my first reread of 2025. Started off well. But anyways, I'm starting to realize this book has been a blur in terms of books. But the next book I read was Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. And this is book number 2 in a series, but I saw this cover. I bought this book not knowing it was number 2 in a series, so I just read it. And I would say it was awesome. This is about Annie and Will, and basically Annie has a whole bunch of sisters, and she's like she owns a flower shop. She's the cutesy, innocent little girl. Like nobody thinks she can do no wrong ever at all. And she falls in love she falls in love with the bodyguard. So what happens is, the first book was One of Us is Famous trope, and then this is the famous person's bodyguard, and he sticks around and they fall in love. Obviously, I gave this book 5 stars. It was amazing. Can I remember most of what happened in this book? No. But do I remember squealing like a little girl in my car when I was listening to the audiobook? Yes I do. Next book I read was When in Rome. I went back and I read the first one. When in Rome is about Amelia and Noah. And Amelia is a pop star, as I told you guys from the last one, One of Us is Famous trope. And she's a pop star, and Noah just lives on a farm. And he's the only boy, and he's the oldest, and he has all sisters. I think there's 4 sisters. So he's always had to take care of them. And so one night, he walks into his front lawn and he sees a pop star in his front lawn because she ran away. She's fallen out of love for music. Her manager's crazy. Her relationship with her mom is rocky. So she doesn't really have anything tying her to a music industry anymore. And so she ran away to Rome, Kentucky. That was a funny joke in my head. But basically, she runs away to Rome, Kentucky, and yeah, that's where the story takes place. It was very cute. I gave it 5 stars. I don't know what else to say. It was really cute. Like the romance, the way he takes care of her, the way she takes care of him. Again, amazing. Gave it 5 stars. Squealed. Don't remember a lot of specifics. But just remember that I squealed. It was amazing. Just trust me. Just trust me. It was amazing. And I have lots of videos of me squealing if you need proof. This one might be my favorite book, only because it made me sob so hard. It was just so beautiful, and I felt so seen by both of these characters. I just spoiled it. Yours truly by Amber Jimenez. Let me tell you, the anxiety representation, I don't know how to word it, but every feeling they had was a feeling I had. I was like, every thought they had, I had. Like, both of these characters together would make a whole me. Like, I'm made of half of both of them. Like, they are my parents. But this is about Brianna Ortiz. I forget. I'm horrible with names, guys. I'm so sorry. This is about Brianna and Jacob. And basically, Jacob starts working at Brianna's hospital. And Brianna's well-loved. She's going to be chief of surgeon. She wants to be like the chief doctor, the chief surgeon or something like that. And she's going for that. But then Jacob comes in and someone's like, well, he's going for the same job. Plot twist. So they take it off to a bad start, but then they slowly but surely start leaving notes for each other. They start communicating, and they just become like each other's person. And they're both going through a lot. His family has issues, her family has issues. She's had to take care of her brother who is going through like health issues, and she feels like she's the only one that can fix those issues and help him because he's just having a rough time. And I just feel, like I said earlier, the acts of service in this book go absolutely crazy. I think she mentions in one of the notes that she's rewatching Schitt's Creek, or like she's watching Schitt's Creek, and he doesn't even, without even telling her, he starts watching it and then just brings it up in conversation one day. Like, she didn't have to ask him to do that. He just did that. And then there was another part, what was it? And she's talking about her favorite movies, and she's just talking about how she loves the familiarity of like knowing what's gonna happen, and how something new gives her anxiety, and not knowing how something's gonna end gives her anxiety. And that's literally me. That is literally me. Ask me what show I'm watching right now. I'm rewatching Once Upon a Time for the 4th time, probably 5th time. I don't know, but yeah, yours truly. I would give this 10 stars. I wanted to sob every single time I flipped the page, because I just felt like it's like I've never felt as seen in a book as I felt in this book. Like, if you take anything away from this video, is read this book. Please read this book. Okay, on to the next one. I lied. I still lied. This book is filled with 5 stars. No. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I wanted to reread this as soon as I stopped reading it, because it was just so wholesome, so cutesy. I still haven't read the second book. I have it literally on my nightstand in my TBR, because I don't want this to end. So I want to reread it before I read the second book, so that the relationship doesn't have to end in my head. But this book is about Liz and Wes. And basically, Liz is a hopeless romantic, and Wes is her annoying neighbor. And basically, she has a crush on one of his friends, and they strike up a deal that he's going to help her get the guy. And obviously, we know how this ends. He's actually in love with her. Spoiler alert. Just kidding. It's on the back of the book. But basically, she loves rom-coms, and then every beginning of every page. Also, guys, I spilled my coffee because I took it to work. I couldn't stop reading it. Every beginning of every chapter has like a different quote from a different movie. Let me see if I can find one for you guys. Oh my god, these chapters are long. Oh, right here. From 500 Days... This is not a rom-com. But from 500 Days in Summer, just because she likes the same bizarro crap you do doesn't mean she's your soulmate. And it's just quotes like that, like in every one. I think in the second one I saw on TikTok that they quote Descendants, which I thought was so funny. But yeah, I gave this book 5 stars, and I need you guys to read it, because apparently they're going to create a movie. And if, what's her name? The one from Summer Term, Lola Tongue. If Lola Tongue plays Liz, I will actually cry. Like, she's perfect. And if you don't agree with me, talk to the wall. But yeah, please read Better Than the Movies. Please. The next book I read was If He Had Been With Me. And this book, okay, I gave it 4 stars. Usually if a book makes me sob, I give it automatic 5 stars. But the thing was, this made me sob because it's a sad book. But the build up, it's just like, it's an immature book. It's YA. It's so depressing, but you can tell, like, I wasn't, like, the same thing with Better Than the Movies. Better Than the Movies, I don't know, it was a little different. But you could just tell this was not, I was not its target audience. If I had read this maybe in high school, it would have ruined my life. But I will say, it was interesting. It was awesome. It's about Autumn and Finn, and Autumn and Finn were best friends. And something happens, and they're not friends anymore. And basically it's just like their relationship through high school, and how they kind of like rekindle but not rekindle. And she has a boyfriend that she loves, but then she also loves her best friend. So it's like this kind of like, what the fuck do I do situation. And it made me absolutely sob at the end. I have the second book on my nightstand too because I wanted to read it, but I didn't want to cry at another book because I was reading these at work. Thank God I finished it not at work, because crying in front of high schoolers is probably the most embarrassing thing you could ever do. So I'm glad I finished this at home, but 4 stars. It was good. I recommend. But why the no. I know why she was wearing a tiara, like it was like her coping mechanism. But I just couldn't get over the fact that she was wearing a tiara. Like, every time there was a sad scene, I'd be like, oh, but she's wearing a tiara. Like, oh, she's wearing a tiara. Like, it was just, like, in the back of my head. Like, this is a really good scene, but she's wearing a tiara. But yeah. I recommend 4 stars. Next was my introduction to cowboy romances. And let me tell you, I'm going to continue reading. This one is about Clementine and Luke, Emmy and Luke. Basically, Emmy is like a famous horse rider, and Luke is her brother's best friend, and he also works on the ranch. And Emmy comes back from the big city where she was working because she never wanted to stay. She never wanted to stay in her small town, so she comes back, and for some reason she doesn't want to get on a horse anymore, and nobody knows why. And she strikes up a relationship with Emmy. She's Emmy, with Luke. And they've kind of always had like a relationship, and they've always liked each other, but they just never did anything about it. And they've always found each other attractive, but she was always like his best friend's little sister. So yeah, it was really cutesy, and I gave it 4 stars because it was amazing. I just don't think I'll be writing home. You know that quote? It's like, oh, I won't be writing home to tell the folks about it. I won't be writing home to tell the folks about it. But it was really cutesy, and I liked it, and I definitely want to read the rest of the series. So yeah. Next one I read was, I'm changing the rating to 2 stars because, okay, this one is like 1,000 pages long. It's like 1,000 chapters long. And I honestly, I started reading this book, I think last year or 2 years ago, and I never got back to it. And I was on the plane. I had Better Than the Movies on the plane, and I finished it, and I needed something to do because I didn't want to crochet anymore. I didn't want to do anything. Like, I was just like, I need something to do. So I started reading this book because it's the only other book I had downloaded. And it was interesting. I'm glad I finished it, but I can understand why I didn't finish it, because there was a quote that I started reading it because I saw it on TikTok, and I wanted to, like, those quote TikToks, and I was like, okay, I want to know where this quote is from. Let me read it. I didn't get to the quote. 500 pages in, and I was still not at the quote, so it was not worth it. But wait, it's about Jack and Rose. Marriage Promoted is about Jack and Rose, and basically, Rose's like family, I think dad, I forget who, put in the contract. I told her, put in a contract that she can have, she wants to open a cafe. That's her dream. That like, you can open this cafe and you can have this property after, we'll give it to your husband when you get married. She's like, fuck, I'm gonna lose it, fuck. Her ex-fiance, by the way, she's starting new. Her ex-fiance is now with her cousin. Just putting that out there. Her ex-fiance is now with her husband. So Jack, somehow knows about this, wants the property. I don't want to spoil it, why he wants this, and I don't honestly remember, like, it was all a blur, but he wants this property. So he's like, well, I'll give it to you for free for a year, you just have to marry me, and then you can have the property for a year, and then you can start paying me rent. And she's like, why the fuck would I marry you? I met you 5 seconds ago when you walked in. And then he's like, well, I don't know, you got no other options. So they get married, and it's kind of weird. She opens a thing, then he's really helpful. And I did find really cute, like, at the end of every chapter, every time he would smile, she, like, starts counting his smiles, which I thought was really cutesy. The way he takes care of her is really sweet. Like, she gets sick, and, like, it has that trope. I just thought it was way too long, and there was no plot. It was just continuously, like, me, like, seeing what they were doing. Like, me kind of just, like, being the ghost above their head, seeing what they're doing every single day with no plot. There was no plot. She gets sick at some point, but then she's fine. But then she's not fine. But then he has family issues that weren't discussed in the beginning. I don't know. Everything was just, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I need something to keep me going. But yeah, I've been rambling about this for like 5 minutes. Give this book 2 stars. Maybe 3 stars, 2.75. But it basically, I'm just like, I finished it to finish it, honestly. This next book, I was going through my Goodreads like 2 weeks ago. And I saw this on my Goodreads, and I thought I would put it there for mistake, because I do not remember reading this book. This book is a complete blur. I know I got it from TikTok. I know that's why I read it. But I honestly couldn't tell you what the book was about. I can't remember a single detail about this book. And I didn't even rate it. So I was like, okay, I didn't read it. Like, I must have put it there like it's a glitch on Goodreads. No, because it's on my books. If I can find it. Annotated. See, this book is a mystery in itself because, like I said, I don't remember anything. But I'm looking at the highlights and I'm like, I can tell I would have loved this book. Like, I love this book. Like, the quotes are cute. I can tell why I highlighted them. I don't remember highlighting them. But it honestly might have been because it was at work. I was reading it during my breaks. So I was probably just reading it super fast and just reading it to read more than anything. But one of the quotes is, "I'll thank you, she never mattered to me isn't one of the things I can handle." Like, that's cute. I wanted to know if you'd answer. You called. Like, what? I would have loved this book. Maybe I'll give it a reread to remember what it does. But yeah, Come Break My Heart Again. A second chance romance. Tell me if it's good. Dude, I'm like stressing out. I'm like, it's like I like blacked out. Like, I actually don't remember ever reading this book. But yeah. I couldn't give you a rating. Okay, this next book isn't really a book, it's a novella, but it's a novella, Nothing Better Than You, and it's Wiz and Liz's first kiss from Better Than the Movies, from Wes's point of view. And I just want the whole book written in his point of view, because like, what do you mean? Like, this is the cutest thing, like the truck bed, like his dad showing up, like everything that happened at the house. Oh, it was so cute. I just need the whole book from his point of view. Please and thank you. I gave this 5 stars because it was cutesy. I loved it. I would read it again in a heartbeat. Okay, the next book is Betting on You by Lynn Painter, and I read this because I needed more Lynn Painter. And I gave this book 4 stars. And it was really cute. It's about Bailey and Charlie, and they meet on this plane. And it's Bailey's first time. Both of their parents are divorced, and it's Bailey's first time, I think, like going from her dad's to her mom's. And Charlie's just basically talking to her about it and is being really rude and being really like, oh, trust me, one of your parents is not going to want to see you anymore. Like, this is just the beginning. Like, just wait. Like, divorced parents are always like this. And so that's how they meet. And then it turns out they're going to be working. They start running into each other like in high school once they land. And then it turns out they're going to be working at the same water park together. So then they kind of strike up a romance, strike up a relationship, and then so they discover that they're going to work at the same water park. Then she discovers that her mom has a new boyfriend, and he starts coming around a lot. She wants to make this new boyfriend annoyed and make him unhappy, and she can tell that he doesn't like, I was about to call him Wes, Charlie, so they start fake dating for that reason. But I thought it was really cute. It was simple. It was definitely not written for me. It was a little immature, and it was like just an easy read, and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of reminding me of like Wattpad, like just a simple Wattpad read, and I loved it. No notes. It was amazing. 4 stars. So this next book is about Kai and Miller, and Miller is Kai's coach's daughter, and Kai is a baseball player. So what happens is Kai keeps firing all of his nannies and making his coach's job a lot more difficult because he can't work if he doesn't have someone to take care of his son, and he's a single dad. So what happens is the coach is like, I'm gonna get you someone that you literally can't fire or else I'll hate you. So the coach gets Miller, his daughter. So Miller becomes a coach, the nanny, and his son falls in love with her. Like, they become a little cutesy family. But the thing is, Miller's gonna leave for a job at the end of the summer. She wants to be a chef, and she's gonna leave for a job by the end of the summer, and she's a pretty popular chef, and she fixes a lot of restaurants, so she has to leave by the end of the summer, and that's kind of like the premise. Like, they have until the end of the summer for their romance, and they obviously fall in love. I'll let you read the rest for the rest, but it was really cutesy, and I love the relationship, and a single dad trope is always gonna get it for me. And Liz Tomford knows how to write a romance book where they just love each other. I don't know how to word it. They just love each other so perfectly, and they understand each other so perfectly. I love it. Phenomenal. This next book is by Liz Tomford, Play Along, and this one's about Kennedy and Isaiah, and it's kind of been hinted at from all the books. Isaiah's kind of like the jokester, like, he sleeps around, he doesn't really give a fuck, he just like, he's the jokester, and he doesn't take anything seriously. In all the other books, that's how he's seen. And in this book, it's between his romances with Kennedy, and Kennedy is the sports therapist, like the physical therapist, and she wants to go up there, and she's basically the only female on the team, not on the team, but like in this sports, in this male dominated field. And so she wants to be taken seriously, and one day they wake up in Vegas married. And that's not the main plot. They kind of like, they end up having to like fake their relationship in front of everyone so that she can keep her job, and then they kind of form a friendship, and they form an alliance, and you find out why Isaiah is the way he is, and you find out why Kennedy is the way she is, and the relationship is just so cute, and the way you get to know Isaiah is so much better than what was shown of him in the last 3 books is just phenomenal. And I actually can't wait for the 5th book. Liz Tomford. Every book by Liz Tomford turns to gold. I love it so much, and I need you guys to read every single book. But yeah, they were all 5 stars. Okay, the next book I read was Friday Night Lies by C.W. Farnsworth, and this follows Cassie and Holden. And Cassie and Holden were best friends all of middle school, all of them since she moved there in middle school, and they have a falling out in 8th grade, and she becomes best friends with, after 8th grade, they have a falling out, and she becomes best friends with his little sister. So she's always at the house, and she never understood why they stopped being friends, and they always shared the same friend group, so then she felt like she lost the entire friend group when he stopped talking to her, and nobody understood why. And this is kind of like the relationship, her finding out why he distanced himself. I give this book 3 stars. It was entertaining, but honestly it was just like another high school romance, and it was kind of just like a mindless read that I needed a little break for. But Friday Night Lights was amazing, and I was recommended it on TikTok, so it was one of those quotes things on TikTok. Next book was Wildfire by Hannah Grace, and this is the second one after Icebreaker, right? It's after Icebreaker. And this follows Russ and Aurora. I honestly can't remember who Russ was in the first book. Probably should reread it, or if you guys do remember, let me know. But basically it's about Aurora and Russ, and they have a one-night stand, and they end up having to... They think they're never going to see each other, and then they end up having to work at the same summer camp together, so it's kind of like their summer romance, and then they find out why each of them left after the one-night stand, and it's a beautiful story, and Hannah Grace is a really good author. I give this book 4 stars because honestly it doesn't compare to Icebreaker, but I can understand why everybody loves it. And yeah, the next book I read in 2024 was Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and I will say this one was a little bit darker than her other books. I wasn't my favorite. I gave this book 4 stars because it was really entertaining, and I liked it, and I was squealing, and I liked their relationship. It just wasn't my favorite compared to her other books. But in this book, it's between Rue and Eli, and basically Eli's company buys the loan shares for Rue's company, or some financial jargon, I don't remember, but something about a loan. And so he gets to decide, and he gets to interview if he should continue with this company, or if it's like he doesn't think they're gonna move on, or that he doesn't think that this company is gonna go anywhere, and if like they're actually gonna pay off the loan, or if they're like frauding. And so they had met previous to this, and they had gone out on a date, and they hit it off, and she kind of really liked him for the first time in a while. She actually liked him, and the next day she shows up to work, and he's like, he had purchased something in the company. She's like, oh, so he's evil. Like, obviously, like, he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just cares about money, blah, blah, blah. He's not who I thought he was yesterday. And, yeah, so this is how they rekindle the romance, how they fix it. He explains it. You get to know, like, both their backstories, and it's actually pretty interesting, and I really liked it. So, I gave it 4 stars. Okay, the next book is an audiobook, and it's only available on audiobooks on Spotify, I think, and it's Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. Obviously, I was in the mood for more Ali Hazelwood. But it's about Jessie and Viola. And Jessie and Viola work on different video games, work at different video games companies. Viola's video game company focuses on character-based like video games, and Jessie's video game company focuses on fighting games. And so both of their companies get a deal for this new book that Viola is obsessed with, and it turns out Jessie's obsessed with it too. And she has like a relationship with her, like her dad passed away and they used to read these books together. So both of their companies get the opportunity to, but both of their companies, everybody in these companies hate each other. Like they hate each other because they're like, no, I hate that company, they hate me. Like they're basically nemesis. And for some reason they have like history and they are beefing. I don't want to spoil anything, but they're beefing. And they all go to this retreat so that they can start getting along, so that they can get this job. And that's where the relationship between Jessie and Viola starts, because they both have the same jobs at these companies and they both really like these books, as you find out throughout the audiobook. And they both have different reasons for liking them. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I gave it 3 stars. It's a short audiobook, so it's kind of like a novella if I think about it, really. Okay, the next book was recommended to me on TikTok, but then as I was reading it, I was like, I've heard this before. Saw so many YouTube recommendations for this book, Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, because I remember everybody saying that it was like a love triangle, but it wasn't like a normal love triangle. Like you knew who she wanted to be with, but she just had to discover it herself. Like kind of like that terms. And I remember hearing about it so much in like early quarantine YouTube days, and I never read it, and I only started reading it because of a TikTok. So it's Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, and I gave this book 4 stars. And it's basically about, who is it about? I actually can't remember what her name is, and none of these reviews have her name in it, but it's the main girl, and she's always been in love with Chase, and this is her brother's best friend, and she's always been in love with him, and they had kind of like a relationship, but she was always like, no, I can't risk my relationship with your brother, like for you, right? So they never have a relationship. So he breaks her heart. Then she goes off to college, and she has a sort of relationship with Noah, and they start rekindling the relationship, and Noah is on her brother's team as well with all of his friends. So they all kind of see and they form a relationship, but then Chase now wants her back. And that's basically the whole book. I won't spoil anything else, but Say You Swear, I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. I can understand why there's so much hype, and I didn't realize it was such a TikTok book. And now I saw, after reading it, Noah Beck posted a TikTok with this book. So I'm like, it's gonna be turned into a movie now. I haven't seen Sidelined, but I heard it was good. So I'll have to watch it if Noah Beck's gonna play Noah or Chase. Noah Beck playing Noah is gonna be crazy, but yeah. 4 stars. Okay, this next book kind of put me in a reading slump. I'm not gonna lie. I read it afterwards and I was just like, no book has been hitting the same. Say You Swear hit, but it hadn't hit the same as like The Right Move, as Bride, and all of those. So I genuinely was like, no book is reading the same. And this book kind of confirmed that for me. And it's, I think I said, Famous Last Words by C.W. Farnsworth. I'm realizing I'm reading a lot of C.W. Farnsworth, but I feel like it's because she's a TikTok artist, because there's these quotes that get like really popular and people like these specific quotes, and everybody wants to read them for these specific quotes, and nothing really ever happens. For this one, it was like they're like hooking up and he forgets her birthday and breaks up with her on her birthday or something like that. But what's it called? It's about Harlow and Connor, and basically Harlow's parents died. She gets adopted by her best friend's family, which also happens to be Connor's dad and his new wife, who he abandoned his mom for. So they've ignored each other all of college, and now senior year, they can't ignore each other any longer because there's just this connection, you know, or whatever. But they start falling in love, and this is their romance, and I gave it 3 stars. It was interesting. I was just feeling like, like they're books, like they're entertaining, but nothing's like, you know, sparking anything, you know? So went on to the next book. Now, the next book I read was pretty good. I will say, I saw TikTok. I think I'm just in a rut. Like, I was just in a rut when I read this book. This is the last book I finished. And I thought it was good, but then I started seeing all these TikToks about how it was life-changing and it made them believe in love. I wouldn't go that far. But Picking Daisies on Sundays, I gave it 4 stars. This book is about Daniela, or Daisy as she's called. Daisy and Levi. Basically, they were best friends all their life, but Daisy was always in love with Levi. And everything that happens is just a huge miscommunication, which is probably why I was like, girl, like this could have been resolved years ago. Like you just wasted 4 years of your life. But what's it called? Something happens on their prom night and she stops talking to him for 4 years. Their families knew each other, everything. They stop talking for 4 years and they reconnect and they start fake dating so that Levi can get a job. Oh my god, things keep getting in my eye. I probably look like a broken doll. So for him to get a job, they start fake dating, and it's kind of their relationship, how they rekindle, how they go back and see each other's families after years. It's pretty cute. But I will say, all the TikToks like started seeing after I read the book, I was like, eh. And again, I was just like, wasn't feeling any spark with any books. But now we're getting to the last book that kind of rekindled my spark, if I do say so myself. Okay, this book is kind of rekindling my love for reading, and I think it just needed an interconnected standalone series to bring my heart back to life, because I was gonna start rereading Off Campus again, because it's just like, I need to feel something again. So I started reading Throttled by Lauren Asher. I obviously couldn't find a book to read, and I can't believe I forgot about this book, and I can't believe I've never read it, because it's just so good. And it's part of the Dirty Air series, and they're all F1 racers, and this one is Maya and Noah. Basically, Noah is Maya's brother's arch nemesis, but they're on the same team now. So now they have to keep seeing each other, and it's basically their entire relationship. And I will say it's super cute, and I'm about 60-70% in, and I think I'll finish it today. Even if it's the last thing I do, I will finish it today. But it was really good, and I do recommend it, and I can understand why I got a little hype. And that was the 24th book I've read this year. I can't believe it. No, that was the 25th book I read this year. That's a lie. And those are all the books I read in 2024. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little longer, and I'm sorry if I'm lost practice on talking about books. I feel like it's been so long since I've had to talk about books in a video or talk to anyone about books. So I'm glad to be getting back into it, and I hope to get back into it in 2025. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.